Be better next time I try. And even if I still can't do it, yeah, you know that I'm gonna stick to it. Yes, it's all about going through it, and I'm gonna tell you why. Whoopsie, whoopsies, I made a mistake and it's okay. It's okay. Whoopsies are what it takes to get better and better every day. Whoopsies, I made a mistake and it's okay. It's okay. Whoopsies, help me look, see, I'm better at this today. Woo! Whoopsie, 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 whoopsies.
I'm a little embarrassed when I look at my drawing compared to this. I'm just not getting anywhere with this. It makes me wanna hide. Aw, don't be embarrassed. Don't hide.
You should have seen mine the first time I tried. It took a lot of whoopsies to look this way.
No one's perfect on their first day. Whoopsie.
Whoopsies, I made a mistake and it's okay.
It's okay. Whoopsies are what it takes to get better and better every day. Whoopsie, 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 whoopsies.
Well, what about this? I want to jump rope, but nope, I just can't do it.
Well, not yet. Come on and practice with me. You'll see there's nothing to it.
Whoa! Whoopsie.
Whoopsies, I made a mistake and it's okay. It's okay. Whoopsies, help me look, see, I'm better at this today. Woo!
Wait.
It was only a dream, the waves of evil crashing over us. It was only a weak and faithful scream beneath the battlements. I know it's hard, we're falling off before it's too hard. Wake up, my love, please don't give up on me. It's hard. Wake up. It was only a dream, the waves of evil crashing over us. It was only a weak and faithful scream beneath the battlements. But I know it's hard, we'll fall alone before it's too dark. Wake up, my love, please don't give up on me.
What is up? What is up, you guys? We are back at it again. Another epic day here in 100 Days of Rootkit. I hope y'all are excited to continue our journey today down this majestic road that we're traveling, learning, combining, twisting things together to make our little lovely game server. Alright, now again, could have been anything. It's just more fun if it's a little game server, right? Because we're all pretty familiar with games, alright? So it's just very, very convenient. Let me go and dial in my little volume knobs here to make sure everything is good, not too overwhelming for y'all. Alright, let's go and finish up with our intro here so we can get to the good stuff, shall we? Alright? If you don't know, we are a Rootkit nonprofit organization here in the US of A. Don't go to college, don't go to any other boot camp, alright? Just attend. You're already here right now. You're watching. Congratulations, you've taken the first step on your journey. Alright, learn up, get certified, get a job. It's really that easy. Alright, it really, really is. On top of all this free stuff we're doing, if you go over to the blog section of our site, we have the Week 13 giveaway up live now. Make sure you go fill it out to win some mystery gifts. Alright, what is it going to be? I don't even know. We'll figure it out together on Sunday, alright? Don't worry about that. Additionally, like I said, we are a non-profit, so if you're trying to avoid your taxes, well, you came to the right place. Donate today, avoid your taxes. Everything is 100% tax deductible, alright? And depending on how much you donate, you can unlock certain rewards, like our Epic stickers, our collab t-shirt, and our Epic sweater. So make sure you donate today. All donations are matched 1-for-1 for the first 10,000 donations. And we have pillars along the way, like streaming for 24 hours straight, shaving my head here live on stream, and the goal no one wants to see except my mother. We can disappoint her together, alright? And that's shaving my beard, alright? No one wants to see that. That's where all my knowledge is. If you see that I'm using Edge, well, we are using Edge, alright? We're exploring a little bit, alright? Chill. Chill, alright? Leave your comments for later. Let us continue our journey, shall we? I guess one last thing. We are in the Discord. So, jump into the events chat. And if you're a Patreon or Discord premium member, I guess also if you're a champion, so if you have volunteered with us before, you have the champion role, you can join now live and just chat away. You don't need to type in the normal chat. Alrighty. Before I move on, are there any questions, comments, or concerns? Let me go and pull up good old Bing here, because we're going full Bing Microsoft Edge for the rest of this course, just so we can try out chat and see how it is to leave the Google ecosphere. Alright, so far it's been not terrible. Alright, not terrible. I'd give it definitely a good mixed review. The worst thing is you have to use Edge in order to use this, but yeah, pros and cons, right? Pros and cons. Let's go and situate ourselves here, shall we? And one last check. Why is these speakers so loud? I turned them down like 20 times here. One last check to check the chats here. I don't see anything, so let's go ahead and get a rolling, shall we? All right. So yesterday we finished up with our migration of some stuff, cleaning up, right, doing some minor refactoring. Normal thing that occurs, right? Not pleasant, but it's, you know, sometimes normal, all right? So get used to that. It's a part of the thinking process. Take it all as learning steps, all right? You're learning and you're getting, you know, a little bit of pain, zap you a little bit, so you know for next time not to do it that way, all right? So let us continue here on our journey. Is this one still messed up? Yeah, I don't know why, because it looked beautiful on the Mac. But let's go ahead and continue here. If we look on our tracker here, we've gone through a lot of our tasks here very nicely, and we're getting towards the end here. All right. Next, we need to keep track of players on the map. All right. Then we need to keep all other user info persistent to a file. So keep track of players on a map. We are kind of doing that right now, aren't we? The only thing we haven't tested out per se would be if our users pretty much connect and leave immediately. So instead, let's kind of change it so they can connect and they stay there. Maybe we'll put a sleep in for like 10 seconds, and so that way we can see them all show up at the same time, just to make sure that we're tracking them properly. I think track also is supposed to incorporate the commands and moving around, but you know, I think we can do some testing on there for this. So I think this might be an easy one for us to get out of the way here real quick, so we can move on to user info persists to a file, which I think we can get into our first deadlock example with that. Will we? Yeah, if we program it up right, we should be able to show off a potential deadlock. Well, race condition would be first, and then we can show off a deadlock. I'll figure out on the fly here how we can do the race condition to actually show what I'm trying to do. We might just do a dumb demonstration to really show it. And then we'll show a deadlock one later on. Alright? Alright. So, keep track of players. Let's go ahead and get this done with. If we go over the server, alright, we look, and player spawns, add player connection. So player spawn is most likely where we need to go, specifically to our run function here, alright, our master main function for every new thread. And let's check this one out. So we're going to get spawn location, put them on the map, then we're going to receive some data from the client, because it's half an Echo server right now, so they're going to send us some data, we're going to print it out, and then we're going to send them some data all pickled up nicely, and then immediately close connection. This is where we want to take a little pause. Alright, we don't want to immediately close the connection anymore. Instead, we want to just chill for a little bit. Alright, chill for a little bit so we can see multiple people show up on the map at the exact same time. So let's go ahead and import I don't know why I'm yawning, y'all. I'm sorry. Excuse me. My God. I got my coffee. I don't feel tired at all. It's just something, man. Something in the air. Alright. So let's go ahead and do our time.sleep. So we can sleep, and let's say sleep for 10 seconds. Alright. So remember, time. That's how we sleep. Inside the time module. Time also can get you the time. And then sleep is how we can pause everything for 10 seconds and then finish off. Alright? If you didn't remember the exact syntax, but you remember this was a thing, perfect. Perfect. That's the best right there. Alright? That's the best middle ground right there, is remembering, because we've taught a lot of stuff. Alright? The more you practice it, the more it will become muscle memory to a certain extent, but knowing it's a thing that exists and then knowing how to Google and figure it out, that's pretty much what you're going to be doing as your job as a programmer, right? It's a lot of recall and then a lot of Googling, searching, thinking, all right? So, we're going to sleep for 10 seconds. We should be able to see multiple people on the map now. So let's go ahead and try this out, shall we? I guess I made a little boo-boo first because we should be switching our branch here. So cd into our game server file. And let me go ahead and do a get status to see where we are. And we're inside of player. We just edited player, so maybe we're good. Right? I mean, we're good right now. All right, we'll roll with it because we're editing player. All right, we're editing player. So let's go ahead and run our server here. So press enter. We're running our server. Let's go ahead and do Python and our client and run our client. That directory gets me every time. All right, Python and client. All right, let's ready up a couple clients here. Python, and this is probably where's this? There we go. This is probably one of the only times where it's really convenient that we have it so the client hangs and waits for input, because now we can quickly go between each one and just enter well, we could even enter something right now and not press enter, and then press enter so we can quickly see all of them, you know, join up. Maybe we'll get one more to kind of, we'll start this one, wait a couple seconds, start this one, wait a couple seconds, and hopefully time this one correctly. So this one spawns, then this one spawns, and you should be able to see both of them on this one. and then we'll wait long enough for the first one to despawn. So that way when this one spawns in, you'll just see 2. All right, you'll see these last 2 only. So that way we can see, you know, them also despawning. So on this last one, let's go and cd into the game server, Python, and then we want to do our client. All right, perfect. They're all prepped. So let's go ahead and press enter and wait. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Press enter. Oh, wait a second. Oh, because they all are connected, except we didn't. Oh, well, that example worked. All right, we gotta see the okay, that works for me. All right, that works for me. All right, they're all displaying here because they all connected. Right, they all connected, and we didn't enter anything. So since they all connected, they were all stuck right here on the receive. Since we didn't send any data, so they're all stuck right there. The 10 seconds timer didn't start until I pressed enter, but it worked out for us. All right, it worked out for us because we can see all 3 are spawned in here on the map at the exact same time. So we know this is working really well right now. And the second one also spawned in and sees all 3 players at the same time. And the last one spawned in right as the first player left. Right, and by spawned in, I mean it got stuck right here, and we don't send the map till this part right here. So the map got altered before we got to this code down here. So you can see that is awesome. We see them despawning correctly. We see them spawning in correctly. We see them all show up on the map. So everything is super awesome right now. Now you might see that the visuals are kind of bugging a little bit because of the negative signs. It's kind of messing things up a little bit, but who cares? All right, that's visuals, prettiness, whatever. Right? We can always modify that later on the client side. The most important thing is the logic, the server side logic. All right, the client visuals a little buggy, whatever. You just quickly clean that up. It doesn't. Visuals aren't going to affect the security of your service, and security is the most important part, but the functionality of your service. All right. So this is a super good win for us. So let's go ahead and save this, and we'll keep the sleep in there for now because I think it does more for us than it does against us. So let's go ahead and go to the README, and let's go ahead and X this one out. All right. So the last thing we want to do is keep all the user info persistent to a file. So this seems a little easy at first, but also when you start thinking about it, you're like, well, people are connecting and disconnecting, and they're getting an ID temporarily, and then the ID is kind of going away. How are we supposed to persist them? Because if their connection closes, they're kind of removed. And also, how do we know who is who? Because if we look at the server log here, it's kind of confused. Maybe we can do it based off the port, but wait, I remember Elijah told me in fundamentals, these ports are going to be random high ports, so every single time the same person connects, it's going to be different. Interesting. The answer is we need some type of authentication. Now, we're not going to build a whole username and password system. We're going to build half a username and password system because I'm being lazy right now, but also for you to figure out. All right, that's my way of a teacher being like, I'm lazy and I want you to figure out the rest. All right. But also it shows enough. All right, it shows enough. The username is more than enough. Yeah, someone could type in someone else's username and log in as them. Whatever. All right, this is a project for us to mess with and learn from. All right, it's not meant for going to prod. All right, shall we continue here? So did I even mention? Yeah, we're going to need to use usernames. We're going to need to have them enter some type of username that's associated to their account, because that's the only way we know if a reoccurring connection is unique or not. All right, if it should be looked up or if it shouldn't. All right, so let's go ahead and get to it, shall we? So we know we need to get usernames. When we get usernames, they'll be assigned a unique ID for them, which is going to be what shows up on the the screen. Technically, we could switch around so their username always shows up, so you can see users usernames. Whatever. Maybe we'll swap it later. Right? Not too difficult. We'll definitely make sure everything has an ID. But that also brings up the for our player management, the question of, do players go by their ID still, or do they go by their username? And I think going by their username would be easiest because we can quickly look them up via a dictionary. So we can look up the username directly. We're kind of losing our purpose for IDs here because usernames should be unique. Now, you could make your system, which is actually becoming more and more common, kind of like Discord, where you have your username, but they also have an ID. I think your Discord account actually has two IDs associated, an actual account ID and then a secondary ID for your username. So for example, mine, what? Really? God, everything is always against me when I'm trying to show off these presentations. Are you kidding me? Literally, do they get rid of... Great, you're going to be my example, but are you... Okay, well, I swear Discord has... Unless they just changed this recently, it's actually common on other platforms too. They'll have your username and then # or hashtag with a number beside it. So that way multiple... Oh, there we go. It shows up if you copy it. So that's mine on Discord. So this is a way they mix an ID with a username. So that way multiple people can have the same username. All right? Because, it's not always fun to know that your username isn't available. So this is kind of a workaround. Now, 10,000 people can have the same username. So you could go about modding it to do that also. All right. We're not going to do that, but that is something that you can explore and mess with. All right. So when people first join, when a client first connects and the player starts spawning, we need to collect a username for them. Luckily, since we copied everything from the Echo program, we're already forcing the client to send some type of information, right? We can just modify that. So when we receive it, we're going to treat it like a username that needs to be looked up instead of just some random string that gets printed out, which is super, super awesome and super, super epic. All right. Once we do that, we can simply then try to look up a user in our known player list. And if we find them, great. Let's go and retrieve their information and send it back. If we don't find them, then let's make a brand new one for them. And we should always be saving. So I think we'll make it so every time someone connects right now, that we're going to save that new connection, new user, new spawn point, everything to a file, right? So there's a lot more that we have to do here to do the persistence, all right? So even though a task looks simple, it could be a little bit more. The big point is we sit here, we think about it, and then we are able to take it. There we go. Got my whole big bag of them, one bit at a time. All right, where's my camera so I can see it? All right, one bit at a time. I started. All of you guys that win T-shirts and stuff, I'm just gonna start throwing these in here. You're gonna get them for free, right? Because I get a lot of them. I just showed off last time. I haven't really been just chucking them at people. I'm gonna start chucking them at people, so you guys will get them, right? You guys will get them anytime you win pretty much anything now, because I want to get rid of some of them, all right? It doesn't do me any good to sit on them. All right, so let's go ahead and get to this, shall we? Are there any questions, I guess, before we get to this? And we'll modify the client first. Well, I guess go ahead and ask your questions if you have questions. I'm going to wait like 30 more seconds before we get to it. Clean up these shells here. All right, I don't see any questions, so if you do have questions, go ahead and just ask them. We're going to continue on here. So I want to perform a git commit so we can save everything before we move on to another branch. We also do want to do a pull request back into dev so we can save everything as our current latest development of dev before we branch out and start working on this new feature. All right, so let's go ahead and do a git add. Well, let me make sure. I just did this, but I just want to do a sanity check real quick. All right, a little paranoid right now. So if we, we are in the player branch. So let's go and do a git add all, and then we'll do a git commit. All right, and then we'll state that we finished up with the. I think all these are being modified because I added documentation. So all we did was add the. On stream, all we did was add the timer. So added 10 sec timer to player. All right, before it disconnects. So let's go ahead and git push that up. Sweet. Once we push that up, let's go ahead and go over to good old GitHub, and let's submit a pull request so we can update our dev branch, shall we? So if I go over here to repos and game server, pull that over, and we can see that it will, it just noticed here that we just pushed this up, and it's going to try to auto do this for us. Remember, if you do click on this, which you can right now, let me zoom in a little bit for you guys. If you do click on this, remember, it's always going to, by default, it's going to try to push to main. All right, unless you go in and change the settings for it, it's always going to push to main. So make sure you change it to dev. All right. Again, the more manual way, which is just one extra step, is if you go to pull request and do new pull request, you just have to change this drop down manually instead of it being auto signed. So we just pushed up player, and we want player to go to our dev branch, and below you can see all of our beautiful changes that are different between the dev branch and the player branch. So let's go and create a pull request, and we'll leave a great, beautiful comment in here for our reviewer. All right, great. Very informational for them to review. We'll go ahead and create that pull request, and our reviewers will then review our pull request, tell us any changes that we may need to make. There may be auto testing here that gets kicked off. That's another thing for another day. Someone else will be handling that for you, most likely. And then once everything is good, the person in charge of you will press this pretty green button, or you may end up having to press it. All right, so let's go and all press it together and press it again for fully committing this merge, right? Fully committing this merge, and now everything's pushed over to dev, and we're golden. Now that, of course, this server is up to date, our local git here is out of date, so we need to go ahead and do a git pull. Additionally, we need to go ahead and switch git check out to our dev branch and do another git pull because our dev branch is behind. So if we press enter, there we go. We have the latest and greatest now. Now we can go ahead and make our new branch for our new feature. So let's go and do git checkout tag B, and we want to do our user info persist. All right. So let's go ahead and call this feature user info persist. All right. And let's go and git push that up. Again, this should be very repetitious for you guys because we've already covered the git. We've done this multiple times already. Nothing is new on this. It's the same commands over and over. There's only 3-4 different commands here for git. Those are the most commonly used git commands, right? Most commonly used git commands. So you will get used to them. All right, so just to do a sanity check, we are on the right branch now, and so we're all good to go to start creating our modifications. Just checking real quick to see if there's anything in chat, any questions before we chug along here. I guess I should mention, we do have an upcoming AI class, so make sure you guys join. All right, go ahead and participate in that. It's going to be of a multi-series class for teaching how you can get into machine learning and the steps you can take to learn what's available out there for you for resources, creating custom models from scratch, and yeah, just taking it from there. It will probably be like 2, 3, 4 different days. All right, those are going to be before 100 days of rootkit, right? And then after 100 days of rootkit, because our time is coming to a close here. We got like, what, 11 days left? All right, so let's go and chug along, shall we? player, no, we won't, let's do client first. Let's go to client first. Let's just clean up the client a little bit because it's not, when we send this info off, it just kind of has an arrow here. It doesn't say like enter username. So this is low hanging, easy fruit. All right. So let's just get it over with first, right? Feel like we won, we accomplished something right off the bat. So let's go in here and let's just change this to enter username. All right. So that way, when a client connects, they're going to see enter username, and then they're going to enter a username, and that's going to be sent off. All right. So let's go ahead and get add all, and then get commit, and changed verbiage. Wow, that's a lot. Change verbiage to be more clear on username input. All right. Again, you can kind of imply things on your git commits here because these aren't just being logged super general. Kind of. Again, this is up to you on how you want to go about it. I think I have to reopen that tab. Let me pull up Git again. GitHub. And where is the project? All right. So you can be kind of where are we on? We're on user info. You can be more not too in depth in regards to your commit here because your commit will be tied to the files that you edited. So you can see here, you'll only see that commit in that commit message for change verbiage to be more clear on username input. It will only show up here on the client file, right? Because that's the only one we modified for that. So we don't need to be like inside of client.py. We changed. No, we can just imply it because that's the only place the message is going to be appearing. Now, it can look a little weirder here, right? Because this is kind of missing context, right? Missing context here. But I think when you browse, when you browse at that repo at that time, you'll see a little bit more info. So again, it's totally up to you. And everyone has their own preferences for their commit messages. Also, you see it renders here beautifully. What is going on? Why is VS Code on Windows being all buggy? All right, so let's go and continue. That's good. Again, this is the byte size. So technically, if a user tries to send us their name, it's going to cap at 1024. If you should also notice that this is a slight side thing, but also very, very important. You'll notice that, and let's go to spawn here, that the receive in byte size and the, and the send in byte size, here we go. I guess the send isn't set up that way. Thinking this is kind of ruining my example, but you should be as precise as possible potentially for this byte size because you can run into issues in regards to when you're receiving, if you're trying to receive too much or too little, because you won't be able to receive it all. So make sure you have these as precise as possible, and that's why a lot of protocols will have a static message that will always be sent. That is always a static known size, like maybe 40 bytes, 80 bytes long. And somewhere in there, they will tell you if there is a variable length message that is going to be sent, like for example, our username, which is a variable length message. You may want to consume that entire username. So they will send first a static message that is of a known size, so you can then relay what the size is of the dynamic message, so that way you can handle that flawlessly also. If that's a little confusing, well, rewatch it, on the YouTube. Go look at TCP, UDP, and you'll see there they have a size because TCP's headers are static. They are defined. They are just one size. And inside of there, they tell you the length of the package or the payload below it, which for our example here may be HTTP, which is dynamic inside. So it will tell you exactly how long it's going to be. So again, these are low-level functions, so you have low-level functionality here. And it can be very buggy because it is low-level. All right, let's go ahead and continue on here. Same issue can occur when we send the map over. This is for the client receiving the map. So when we're sending the map and then when the client receives the map, this may be an issue if the map is too big. All right, this may be an issue if the map is too big. All right, let's go ahead and continue here. We got the low-level hanging fruit for the username. Now they're going to send the username over, which they've always been doing. And we must receive that. So we're in player here in run, which is the main function. Right here, we're receiving the username. So we're no longer just receiving generic data. We're receiving the username from the client. We'll change this data to the username. We can still print out the username so we can still see what we got. So connect from connected user. This is the username. We could say this. We could change this to connected user said connected trying to auth with username. So that just shows that we are connected to the client. They sent a message over, and now we're trying to authorize them with that username they sent over. All right, so we're sending over the map right here. And with us sending over the map, we're already on the map, so they wouldn't see our username. We would have to change this. We have to move this line down below, so it would be our username instead of our ID. So if you want that functionality instead, so you can send over a username instead of the ID, just move this line below this, right? So that way it will show up on the map correctly. Maybe we'll do that just for a second so we can see it show up. I guess the last thing would be in regards to looking up our client. So let's go ahead and go to the player manager. So now this brings up more questions on how we want to go. Wait a second. Oh, it brought me to the top. On what is the functionality of the player management. I should go with the player manager. Again, like I said, I'm not the best with naming schemes. So player manager might have been a little better. But this is where we get another fork in the road. Just like I showed with player, we had some choices to make on how much does player do and how much does the manager do. And we could, go very much like our functional base code initially. We could go kind of in between, or we could go to probably the most optimal level available. Again, it always depends on your situation, on what you should be doing, especially if time is in essence. Time sometimes doesn't afford you to do things the best way possible. All right. So just because there is a golden way to do stuff or the best way possible doesn't mean you have the luxury to do that. So don't feel bad if you don't and you don't end up doing it the best way possible. So let's go ahead and continue on here, shall we? Let's check out, let's think about this. We have our server here running. While true, someone's going to connect to us. Right when they connect to us, we're going to have the player try to spawn. So maybe, just maybe, we don't want the player to spawn right here. We could instead maybe have some pre-setup here, right? Some pre-setup where we collect the username. Maybe an authentication setup, all right? An authentication setup where you have a whole function, process, class for doing the authentication, handling it right up front, password, username, whole jam, they didn't get it right, return, etc, etc, etc. All right, you could totally do that. That would be 100% fine, great. You could add it right there. All right, we don't have any need for passwords or anything complex like that, so we're not going to do that. Right? It's a little too extra. Right? A little bit too extra. What we can do instead is hack a little bit. All right, hack. So we're gonna hack our player class here a little bit because we notice, right? We don't really want that right now. What we do know, what will work for us, because again, we know we're not going to build out a whole authentication system, is when our player gets created here, we can make a player username, what do you call it, attribute inside of the player. So when we collect it here, when we collect that here, specifically on spawn, because spawn will run our thread, when we collect it here, then we can have it so the add connection over here is going to refer to that variable. All right, it's going to refer to that variable and see if there has been any previous connections with that data. All right, with that data. Now, this is where we can run into our first race condition issue, which I think we'll program out purposely so we can run into this race condition issue, so we can talk about race conditions again and see it visually happening and causing an error kind of in our code here. All right, so let's program this out, shall we? So let's go to spawn, and when we go to spawn, that will take us real close here to run. When we're in run, right now we're sending username to just username right here. So instead, let's make this an attribute instead of a variable, an attribute to this class. So let's go up to init and let's say self.username equals, and we can do blank thread, blank string. We'll do a blank string. All right, we'll do a blank string. So we'll change this now down below to self.username. Now we have this variable we can refer to. All right, where else is username done? All right, nowhere else. So now we've modified it, so this is now attached to the class and accessible elsewhere. If we go over to our player management, when we add the new connection, instead of doing the ID here, and I'm going to copy and paste this so we have the old and the new one here as reference. Instead of doing it based off the ID, this was a bug too. It worked because it was okay. Well, we're gonna just act like that wasn't there, and we weren't bugging out on that. We're gonna do player dot and then our username. All right, player dot our username right here, and that will give us the username. And let's see how this works. All right, let's see if it even works. So let's go ahead and clear, and let's go ahead and do this should, yeah, I think, yeah, I think we should definitely print out right here for each player in the players. We want to print the player dot, no wait, this is a dictionary, so we do want to print. No, we're gonna just print out. Sorry, you guys. Dot keys. All right. So this is gonna show us all the keys that are in the dictionary. So every time someone connects, it's gonna show us all the keys in the dictionary. Now, is this a pointer, or is this gonna take the? I guess we'll figure out here, because if it's a pointer, then it won't cause an issue. But I'm pretty sure it's not a pointer, so we will run into the race condition. Now I'm all paranoid about causing errors. I want to cause an error, but I'm paranoid that this won't cause an error. I'm pretty sure it will. Let's go and run this and see. Python, and let's go ahead and run the server. All right, server is running. Let's go ahead and open up a new guy here, and let's go and cd into our game server, and Python our client, our username. So this username is going to be Bob. All right, Bob connected and disappeared. Let's go and open a new one and cd into game server. Cd into game server and do Python client, and let's do this as QFC. There we go. And they connected. Let's go ahead and look right here. There we go. That's what I wanted. This is what I wanted. So one more time. Let's see this in action. All right, let's see this in action. I can't clear this out, so ignore this. So QFC and right after QFC. I think I can put these side by side. Perfect, right? So, slow-mo. This is a race condition happening right now. This is an issue when you have threads. When you're multi-threading or multi-processing your application, you can run into this, and it's a pain to figure out if you're not tracking that it's a race condition. It's going to be a pain. You're going to go down lots of loopholes. You're going to be very angry, right? But it's potentially simple to fix, right? It's potentially simple to fix. So let's see this again in action. A client connects, and we can see here that the client just connected. And right here, you should be able to see the issue immediately. Our client connected, and then we printed this dictionary of keys. This dictionary of keys here, well, you could see this on a multitude of issues, all right? Every time a new player gets added, it gets added to the dictionary. So our dictionary should increase in size with every new player with a new username. But you can see we only have a dictionary of 1 in size. And again, dictionary keys is us seeing just this part and not the data. Just seeing the keys for the dictionary, not the data for the dictionary. So that's issue number 1. Issue number 2, you can see that the username isn't even coming through. We haven't even typed the username yet this is being executed. Why? Well, that's because, again, we're using threads. So if we go over to our server section here, someone will connect. When they connect, we're going to make a player. And right here is when we spawn off a new thread that will be trying to collect the information for the user. That thread runs completely differently at its own pace compared to the main thread. So the main thread is going to be like, all right, have fun, goodbye. And it's going to continue on and then add the connection. Since it added the connection, all right, it added it with no name. It's an empty string because we have right here in our player username with an empty string, all right? So it adds them before it even collects the username. So that cannot be used, right? That cannot be used. So that is a potential issue. All right. There's a bunch of ways you can go about alleviating this issue. All right. And maybe we'll go back to IDs for now. But one is making it so you sit and wait for your thread to hit some point and then continue forward, or updating later on, or making it so it refers to the data directly later on, or puts it in kind of like a pending phase, and then finishes up with once it hits a completed phase. There's lots of different creative ways you can go about this, right, and handle this. For now, I'm going to go back to the IDs because the IDs I think are the easiest, all right? It will require us to change the player management logic a little bit, right? And you'll see here in a second why, specifically when we're trying to save to a file and reload people in, but it will be the easiest and most stable for us. Why? Because we always get the IDs immediately, right? We always get the IDs immediately, so we'll be able to use the IDs here always. IDs are also going to be unique currently for every running instance of our application. We'll need to modify the logic a little bit. So it will always be unique even if it shuts down and restarts, all right? And that should solve everything because then we can refer to the player later on based off their username, hopefully when they have the username in, and we can also set up something for like a pending state, right? For something called like a pending state. Now, let's see here. Again, I want to talk about the race condition one more time. This is the race condition. Again, just like a race where people are running, right? Just like a race where people are running, this is called a race condition because you have two things that are racing to compete effectively on, getting to the finish line, right? You have the main thread and your spun off player thread that are both racing to view the username. But this one is viewing it too early. It's not supposed to win the race, right? The other one is supposed to win the race. The player thread up here is supposed to win the race first before this one does. hence the race condition, right? They are running and competing against each other speed-wise, and this one is just way too fast. The main thread is way too fast, all right? So again, race conditions, very important. Hopefully this clarified it for you guys. And now that you've seen it in action, when something like this does occur for you, when you are programming yourself, you're able to maybe identify or go down the rabbit hole to figure it out. All right. Now we got one last one left, and that's going to be to show off the deadlock, which we should be able to towards the end of today's class when we're saving to a file. All right. So let's go ahead and change this back to instead of player, let's change this to player ID, because the player is being given an ID immediately right on our main right here. All right, so this should be a-okay. When we pass this through, we'll get the player ID, and yeah, so now we should see in the player keys everything be working correctly and showing up. So let's go ahead and close our server here. That's worked well. Let's close our client, and perfect, clear, and now let's go ahead and restart our client, and we want Python server, press enter. This one we want our Python client, and press enter, and whammo bammo, now you see a proper ID in here, right? You see a proper ID in here, and the user connects. All right, sweet. That user has the username of ASDF, so things are working well. And now if you see another user connect now, look at that, the dictionary has gotten larger, right? The dictionary has gotten larger. If we put in a username here, like maybe Bob, look at that, Bob has connected, and whammo bammo, they are fully associated, their own ID, their own everything, different spawn point. This works really well, right? This works really well so far. All right, we still have some issues, like for example, if Bob logged out, he wants to log back in. Oops. Bob, he's now given a brand new ID, right? He's given a brand new ID, so that's a little bit of an issue, so we're gonna need to check that out also. But this is a good starting place, right? This is a good starting place. Any questions with this so far before we chug along? All right, I don't see any questions. So let's chug along, shall we? If we go over to, what are we doing? We got the ID here. So we need to make it so when the same user logs back in, we can recontinue their session with the proper ID. So maybe we should then have something in here in regards to Let's see. There's a couple of ways we can go about doing this. One, again, would be setting up that authentication part at the front to make everything more smooth. Again, we could do something in the player section where the player adds themselves to the PM. Also, we could make it so the PM gives us a handler, and we can add ourselves via the handler or utilize the handler, or we pass the PM a handler that it then executes when appropriate. Maybe that's just a little overkill though. I kind of do want to show off a handler just to show you guys what they do. I just don't want you guys to get confused. But I do want to show it off. So maybe we'll do it that way. Okay, so let's see here. On our PM, we have our player manager here, and we got players in the dictionary, and we're going to want to, when they call the handler, we could make it so the add connect is the handler, I guess. Yeah, I guess we could do that. I mean, that's just adding them to themselves. The other way would just be to have it so it refreshes the dictionary based off of new updated information. Maybe we'll just stick to the easier version. Should we? Shall we? All right, we're gonna do the easier way using a handler, where basically add connection is gonna be kind of our. Would that even be a handle? I don't even think that would qualify as a handle. All right, so this is what we're gonna do. Where's the servers? Right here. Spawn player, add connection, player here. I kind of want to do it the other way though. Where the player info changes from pending to fully qualified. Then we could have add connection. They go into a pending state. I mean, you could even go even more complex and have this so it has its own thread running to check for the pending state, but I don't think we'll even do that. So I think what we'll do instead is have a self.pending players here. So it's exactly the same. Adding a connection will add them to a pending player state, which will add them exactly the same based off their ID to the pending players current state. And then we want to have this little handler thing, which is going. Oh, that's pretty neat. We don't want that right now. But what we do want is to have it so we have a refresh function. Did this thing just read my mind again? Holy crap. I don't like this sometimes, you guys. Alright, so for ID and pending player keys, self.player ID equals, it really did. Alright, except we're going to change this one. We don't need to do based off the keys. We can do this based off of the player itself. So then we can have the player.username, and so this knows what it's going to be. Pending player is going to be dictionary, and this is going to be of player type. We do have the player type here. Can I get the typing going on, please? Alright, we're gonna go ask Bing real quick. How do we do in dictionary typing? So Python dictionary dictionary item typing. I think I spelled typing wrong. No, I didn't. So let's go and see this because I am curious right now, because I do like the typing and having it autofill. Alright, so here we go. We use brackets instead, it looks like. Perfect. Alright, so let's go and change this to brackets right after. So pending player is going to be an ID, and I think that's being stringified. So the ID is going to be a string, which is going to be here in add connection. And add connection. No, it's adding it as a integer. So let's go ahead and go to this. So it's going to be an integer, and then this is going to be the player object. So that's key and then value. Module cannot be used. All right, so player.player. All right, and then this one's going to be the same, except this is going to be a string, and then this is going to be player.player. Very good, very good. So now we have our typing here, or we should be having our typing here. showing up player as integer. Pending player as integer. Did I read? String, specify dictionary, get info. The name of the parameter is of type string, and the function returns a dictionary with 2 keys, both which have string values. Okay, I messed this up. That is not for the key. So it should just be like this. There we go. Now our typing is working correctly, and this shows up as type player. Alright, so self.pendingPlayer for every single player in the pending players section. If the player, we don't have this variable yet, .pending. If the player pending, if it's not pending, player's not pending anymore, then we want to perform this action. So if the player is not pending, which if we go over to player, we should make a pending. So by default, they'll be in a pending state, which means they need to enter their username. They haven't entered a username yet. So we'll go ahead and do pending equals true. So when that is false, then we're going to migrate them from pending to the actual player list. This is when they'll actually show up on the map. They don't show up on the map until then. Self.players, we want to add them based off their username to the official list, and in their pending state they'll just be based off their ID. We're not calling this ID, we're calling this player.id, and then we want to delete it from the pending state, which is going to be player.id, not ID, just straight up. Alright, so this is exactly what we need here, and now we just need to have this be passed here to the player so they're able to access it. So inside here, when we're creating the player, we'll do pm.refresh. Again, there's other ways you can go about this, but this is going to be, I think, the easiest one for us to go about. So we're going to pass that refresh function. We're not going to run it. We're just going to pass it along. Let's go to player and let's handle that function. So we're going to go ahead and get that refresh function, and can we just say this is no function? All right, and let's go and save that off to self.refresh equals refresh. All right, and then here inside of run, let's go ahead and user connects, they're given the ID. After they connect, they're given a coordinate. This coordinate, they should not show up on the map until they've given us their username. So we're going to move this now because they need to give us their username first. Technically, we should probably just move this straight up to the beginning because that's the most important thing. So they must give us their username first. All right. After we receive their username, then we want to reload. All right, we want to run that self.refresh function, and the project manager here will take over, and it will move them. Well, we got to also set this to the pending state to false. So this will then go to the project or player manager, where the player manager will take over and move them to a active state in the player array, and we'll also look for any pre-existing accounts for them. I guess we didn't mess up that because right here we're just adding them to it. So we should also do we can just simply do another if statement right here for self.players.get. There we go. So if I just had it auto write it so we could just look over it afterwards. So if the player get the username is not equal to none, so this means that the player does exist. So get is exactly the same as using the brackets, except by default it will return none if it can't find it. It won't error out, it will return none. So we're going to try to find that player. If it can't find the player, it's going to return none. All right? If it returns none, then we want to just add the player. So we can do a else here. And now we'll add the player if they're not in there. If they are in there, if they are in there, then we want to move over the player. We don't want to move over, we just want them to be, we want to be referring to the same player. So we want to do a kind of a Uno reverse card here slightly, because the new player thread, so we want to do self dot, no, this is going to be our player. So our current player is a live connection that needs to have its ID changed. So its ID is going to be equal to, there we go, to that. So that should update that. And then they also need, so we should probably make a function here for reload for our player. So let's go ahead and go over to player, because we have a bunch of variables here. So then they're connecting on a new connection and new thread. So we need these to stay alive, all right? We need these to stay alive. But we need to revive their old ID if they're reconnecting. We need to, their username will be fine. So we need to revive their old ID. And we need to get their coordinates from last time that was saved off, all right? So we need their ID and their coordinates. So we could just make this into a function so that way the player management isn't doing too much here. We could make it so it's like a reload function where we're going to reload. That's not exactly what we want. We want the ID and we want the current core, and this is going to be a list. The ID is going to be an int, and simply all we want to do here is just do the assignment of that and of this. All right, so this should be all we need, at least for right now, for reloading a player. This may change later on. So now we can just say that the or we can do it revert. I think it would be simpler. Yeah. There are two ways we could do it, because we could technically just have it so it passes this off to the pre-existing item in there. This might run into potential memory issues, but whatever. That is so much more high level right now. We don't need to talk about it too much. Let's keep it simple, and let's go ahead and make it so. Just delete all this. Self-players.reload. Almost. You almost got it. We didn't do it that way, but we could have done it that way. I was thinking about having us do it that way. The way it's trying to auto-predict it is close. It's another way we could go about doing it, but we didn't do it. Instead, we did it so the player in pending players right now needs the reload. Needs the reload of this item and of this item. That is correct. I thought we made this so it would have the correct dot items. All right, this looks correct. And then I guess no matter what, we would just do this, and we would just do that. All right, so this should work, I believe now. So if the player already exists, we're going to reload. So the current player in pending, we're effectively just going to change their ID. And then we're going to, their ID change will mess up this logic here below. So we should say right here, old ID equals that. So this right here is going to be there, and that's going to be there. So that will mess up that. So we're going to change this player's ID. We're going to change this player's current coordinates in the reload, and then when it gets moved over from pending over to player, it should be all good, all Gucci. It should show up correctly. Let's see. Let's see. We just got to run it now. That's the last step here for us. Are there any questions on this? All right. I did a lot of rambling out loud just to figure out how I wanted to go about it for example's sake. If you are confused at all, please let me know. With us doing the example here, hopefully it will crush any confusion. Alright, so clear. Let's go ahead and do Python and then server. Let's see here. Function is not defined, so it doesn't look my typing on the refresh. Let's just remove that. No typing. Alright, so let's go ahead and CD, and what was that? CD into the game server. And once we're in here, we're going to do Python and our client. Now we should see our client is going to connect, hopefully like normal. And then we're going to, and you'll see here, this is going to be empty because our client is in the pending players array or dictionary. It's not in the live dictionary. So no live players are on the map yet, right? No one's on the map yet. It's going to wait until we enter a username and then it's going to show up. So let's go and do a username here. Let's call this Bob. We press enter and int object has no attribute pending. So we have a little bug here. Player is a int object. Player is a int object. Apparently, let's pull that up. If not player dot pending int object has no attributes. Oh boy, we're getting rated perfect time. Rated right when we run into a little bug and we're doing some debugging here. All right. So to catch up everyone that's rating right now, thank you so much for that the raid, Dan. We're teaching right now threading, showing it off in the example of a server, in this case a game server. We went over earlier how to, or what race conditions are, and showing off one, and how to go about alleviating them, which is what we're doing right now. Well, we already did alleviate earlier. We are going to show off a deadlock example here in a second, but we just have another bug right now in regards to our class. Which, now that I look at the time, we do need to go on break. So, if you guys do have any questions, please ask them while we're on break. About to go on break. So, in 3 to 5 minutes, we'll be back from break. So, you guys take a little refresher. There is a lot that we just did here. And yeah, I'll see you guys right after the break. Alrighty. Let us continue our torture here, shall we? Let's get back into it. Alright, but before we do, let's go ahead and finish up our intro, and then we can finish up with this. I'm going to quickly chug us along. I'm going to write a bunch of code, and then we'll review it afterwards. So that way we can maybe squeeze in our deadlock example. Alright, so let us bring up the tabs here. If you don't know, we are a Rootkit nonprofit organization here in the US of A. Don't go to college. Don't go to any other boot camp. You're here right now. You're already watching. You've already taken the first step towards your journey to become a certified dev. All right. It's free 99 to sit here, learn everything you need to do to get our comp sci cert and get a job. All right. It's really that easy. On top of that, if you go over to the blog section of our site, on week 13, our giveaway is live for the 100 days of Rootkit. So make sure you go over there, click this green button, and enter the giveaway. It's completely free. All you have to do is show that you're subscribed to our YouTube channel, following us on Twitch, and other various things to earn more and more entries to win. On top of that, you like taxes? No? No one does, right? So avoid your taxes today. Donate. We are a nonprofit here in the US of A, so every time you donate, it's 100% tax deductible. Depending on how much you donate, you can unlock certain rewards like our epic stickers, our collab t-shirt, and our epic sweater, right? Limited edition just for the stream, which comes to an end here soon, which means we're going to be starting to chuck them away. All right, chuck them away at people specifically for these giveaways here. So make sure you enter to win some sweaters. All donations are matched 1-for-1 for the first 10,000 donations. So make sure you donate today. It's like donating twice as much. And we have pillars along the way, like teaching for 24 hours straight, shaving my head here live on stream. And the goal no one wants to see, shaving my beard. All right, no one wants to see that. All right, this is terrible. Yes, we are using Bing. All right, we're doing a whole transfer over here so we can check out Bing and things and using Bing chat. All right, and so far it's been quite impressive. We're using all bunch of types of AI stuff right now, including GitHub Copilot, while we're coding all this, and it's been absolutely fantastic. And this isn't even the new upgraded version. All right, they haven't released it yet. I think it's waitlist right now still. I did enter onto it, but not got it. I'm excited though, because as you guys have seen that have been following along, it's pretty poggers. All right, so let's go ahead and continue here. We ran into a little bit of an issue saying int object has no attribute pending. So if we look at this again, half your job is just reading and looking up things. So we're gonna look here, and it says attribute error. This guy right here, our player.pending, is saying that an int object has no attribute pending. So our player is an integer. Right, our player is a integer, so pending self.pending players is going to be integer values only. So this may be a little bit confusing for some people. So we can start doing some debugging here to figure out what is going on. Why is this an integer? Shouldn't it be the player? The first thing you should do, we'll first look over your code, but you can also pull up the or the interpreter. All right. Because maybe we're just a little confused on how dictionaries work in regards to a for loop. So let's go ahead and knock that out of the way right here. Let's go ahead and make a dictionary. All right. Let's go and make a dictionary like this and call this dictionary A. Oh, don't know how that was valid, but let's say that one's 21. And let's make one more item here called B. And this is going to be... Are you kidding me? And we're going to throw that in there. All right, so now we got our dictionary is df. So let's go ahead and put that in a for loop for item in our dictionary here. Let's go ahead and print our item out. And it looks like we're getting the keys, which is an issue. All right, we're getting the keys every single time. We're not getting the values. Right, which is an issue, which means our for loop here is what's wrong. We're not doing our dictionary correct here in regards to how we're iterating through it. Now, there's several ways you can go about solving this. All right, one, you could just do a lookup in the dictionary for all of these. All right, for all of these using the ID that we're getting. Additionally, there are some items in here like dot items that will give us all of the items and make it iterable. I believe items is a function. It is. All right, so this should give us all of the items. All right, all of the items so this should be a alternative we can take. This is going to be a tuple. Well, let's go ahead and try it here since we already have the IDE. So let's do dot items and see what it looks like. Print item, and there we go. So it's going to be both the key and the value. All right. So not the most convenient. I don't think there is. Oh, is it dot values? Because I see it's trying to help us out here. So let's try this again in the interpreter with dot values and see if that's what we want. Because we just want the values. All right, we just want the values. And that looks like that works. All right, so Copilot for the win once again. All right, telling us if we wanted values. We could additionally go into the Bing chat and get to the same conclusion. So this should hopefully remove our error from before. This it looks like it messed up our typing, so that's why everything is a little janky here. And I'm not quite sure how we can, because this did not work before. Our typing here did not work before. So we'll just chalk up to a loss right now and continue forward and see if this actually just works at all for our server. Why is my terminal hanging? So let's just go and kill that, CD into our game server, and go in and see if our server will run now. And it is running. So things are looking good. They are looking successful. So let's open up a new terminal here and see if we can. There we go. There's our server. Let's CD into the game server. Let's go ahead and run our client, and we've connected to the server. All right. Dictionary keys is empty. That's good. That means we're in our current pending state. When we enter the username, we should go into the active state. So let's see here. Let's go and make Bob, press enter, and we got another issue here. Dictionary changed size during iteration. All right. That would also be an issue. All right. Also potentially an issue. So you know what? To fix all of this, let's go ahead and change this back to... what do we have here before? I think it was items. Let's just change this back to items. And this is also technically a race condition. So we could talk about that a little bit also. Refresh pending players. So this is also a... Alright, I'm totally kind of glazed over that one. This is also another race condition that we ran into. Just like before our array was empty before we collected our username, this is also a race condition issue also, where something else is being added to pending players while we're going through pending players. Alright? The reason why this is potentially happening, which I feel like it shouldn't happen, we're running this on the thread, and it should be running it on the thread also, the refresh function here, but it seems like it might be running it on the main thread, which is a little bit weird. Let's see if items here helps out a little bit. If not, we're gonna have to change some of our logic here. So let's go and do Python and our server, and let's go ahead and just F5 for the client here because I don't feel like typing a bunch of stuff again. So our client's here. Let's go ahead and add Bob. And all right, looks like we got progress here. So changing that looks like it did help. Let's go ahead and go here. Tuple, perfect. So this gives us a tuple of the ID and the item. So the item was the second one, so let's just go ahead and grab the second item out of the tuple here. So we just got to rerun our server. Where's our server? Our server's right here. Let's go and close this. Close. And open a new terminal here. CD into our game. Python into our server. Server started. Let's go ahead and rerun our client here, and let's get Bob loaded back into the... Oh, that's in the comment. Let's get Bob loaded into the game, and... Oh, you're killing me. Dick item object not subscriptable. Why you gotta do this to me? Alrighty, so let's go ahead and do... Let's pull up our interpreter here again, shall we? Close, close, close. Come on. Python. We got our... You know, I'm about to just do it. Why? I swear this is never this rough. Alright. Alright, so let's go ahead and make another dictionary here. ASDF equals our dic. And let's go ahead and add a item to it. Perfect. Let's go ahead and recreate our for loop here. So for item in ASDF. And of course, I fat fingered that. Let's go ahead and print item just to do a sanity check. This should be a tuple of 2 items. And how did I mess that up? Now this is going to error out. Or maybe not. There we go. So this tab print item. Alright, we're getting A here. I did mess that up because we do need the ASDF dot items equals that. Press enter, and we want to do print item. I guess we could just change. Okay, all right. Well, here we go. We'll do key. There we go. Key and player. I don't know why. I'm just getting confuffled, you guys. I'm sorry for that. We could have just done this all along. So now we're just pushing them out from the tuple into the 2 other items, or the 2 other variables there. Let's go ahead and run our server again. CD into our game, Python the server, and let's go ahead and run our client. Let's see if Bob will be successful this time. Come on, Bob, I believe in you. It's hanging, so I'm guessing it's another error. Dictionary change inside. So it is running into... It's running into the race condition, I believe, again. Or we just messed up our logic elsewhere. Because if we look here, run, target, so this is in the thread, our refresh is running into an issue. If we look into our server here, player spawns, we add the connection gets added into this, pending player is added to here, and then we have items, pending player. It just doesn't like how we're going about this at all right now. So we might have to change our server logic. This is unexpected race condition issue, you guys, so I apologize for this. So let's see here how we can go about alleviating this issue. If we look here right now, we're sending over that PM refresh. Now, I wonder if we sent the PM entirely, if this would stop the issue from occurring. Because it shouldn't really... I guess we could just not delete. Would that stop the issue? This would be an issue for memory's sake, but maybe that's what's going on here because of the changing sizes. Additionally, we could maybe make this into like current pending players. There we go. We could alleviate it by doing this, making a copy of it at that current time. So that way we're just working off the copied version. Should we still do delete? No. So we if this ends up working, just know we may run into a memory issue here with this ever-growing list since we're not deleting any pending players, but that's a issue for us to figure out another day. We can go and leave a comment here for ourselves saying that potentially remove old players from the player dic could be a memory leak. All right. And I guess we'll just throw a to-do here so we can look it up later. So we'll just keep a note for us. This should hopefully alleviate the issue. So let's see, pending player. We need to replace pending player here. So let's go and do that. Let's go do that. All right, let's run the server again and see if this will fix all of our issues, shall we? So for the 50th time, which is normal when you're doing development, let's run this again. Our folder is going to be game, and we're going to do a Python on our server. And now let's go and run the client again and see if good old Bob can connect finally. Bob, oh, that's what we want to see. Beautiful, absolutely beautiful. So again, what was happening there? Race condition issue, right? Race condition issue where the array that we're trying to mess with here was being shrunk in size, made smaller in size. We don't know exactly. We didn't explore it enough. We just know it was changing in size during the for loop and did not like that. That can also occur. I'm personally still a little confused right now on why it was occurring on one connection, but I could totally see it being a very common issue if two people try to connect at the same time, and this would be changing in size all around, all crazy like. So to alleviate the issue, we're going to make a carbon copy of the array, call it our current PP, all right? And we're just going to work off the current PP, all right? We're not going to mess with this one at all. So if it does change in size, does not matter to us. We're using this variable instead, and we're going to go about our logic like normal, adding them to the map, which they were successfully added to the map, which we can see here. So now when we have another player potentially connect, which I am confused on why this is the server, whoops. If we have another player potentially connect, we should see that we have a list of, we should not see the last user, Bob, show up on the map. He should be gone from the map, but he should be in that dictionary key list that we are printing out. So let's see here. Let's have Alice join this time. So Alice, press enter. A existing connection was forcibly closed. Was it? Oh, wow. I did a control C on here earlier. So, all right, forget that. Let's redo this again. All right, I did a control C on it earlier, so that's what messed it up. So let's rerun client. We got to re-add Bob. So, gosh darn it, I wish it would just capture in here. So Bob has been joined. Let's go ahead and rerun this and get Alice. Again, Bob should no longer show up on the map in this position. He should be gone, but he should be in the in this dictionary list, right? Oh, we can already see he's already in it. All right, so he wasn't in it. Now he is in it. Let's see if he shows up on the map. So let's get Alice in here. Look at that. Alice shows up. Let me make this bigger. So Bob showed up here, right? Bob showed up in this position. Alice showed up in this position. So slightly different positions. Not quite sure why it rendered weirdly right here. Slightly different positions. But we can see here that even though Bob doesn't render on the screen anymore, I guess they did go in the same spot. Even though Bob doesn't show up on the screen anymore, Alice is still, and Bob is still here as known players that have connected, have profiles with us, and we're just going to sit and wait for them to reconnect. If they do, we'll let them continue from their current session. Now, let's try this one more time with the player connecting. Let's go to the game server, Python client. I just want to make sure this isn't a bug for our player, so let's call this one dog. Alright, so I just wanted to make sure that it wasn't just coincidence that they both kind of showed up on the same spot there. Dog definitely showed up in a different spot. So it looks like everything is working. Right, looks like everything is working. If I reconnect right now, I'm not going to enter a username. You'll see that Bob, Alice, Dog, all of their profiles are here. They're known people that have logged in the server, have accounts on our server, no longer in the pending state. Right, no longer in the pending state. But they all get removed from the map when they're not connected, because again, we're only connected for a quick second and then we're removed. All right. The last test we can do here is if we re-log in as Bob, we should show up on the map as an ID of -2 in this exact same spot Bob was. Same thing with Alice and same thing with Dog. So let's go ahead and test that. Let's test re-logging in as one of our users. So let's go in here and say Bob, press enter, and look at that. We are -2. And we show up here as -2. So our ID is correct here. Our map placement is slightly incorrect, so we have to look into that. But that looks very good. Let's try to re-log in as Bob and see if our map placement changes again. It does. So we know we're not passing over our coordinates correctly. And it's not because of that. I think it's because we're not... I'll point it out here in a second. It's because well, I can point it out right now. It's because of when we spin up our thread, we're always getting a new random spawn location. So maybe this is what you want. Maybe this is what you want. I think we should be going based off our, what do you call it? Based off of the not this coordinates, but what our past current coordinates are. When we did the refresh, you know, where we left off last. So real quick, I just want to show off maybe connecting as Dog, which should be -4, which we are showing up. So again, maybe you want that functionality, maybe you don't. I'm going to change it so we don't do our spawn, all right, our current spawn, if we already have some known locations, right? If we have some known locations. So we can go about this, again, multiple different ways. One, we could use a variable that's pretty much a Boolean flag of whether we were loaded in or not, which the player management would reflect after we do this refresh function. Or we can see if there's anything currently set in our current cores. All right, so right here, there should be nothing in the current cores variable unless refresh was done, right? Unless refresh is done. If a refresh was done, it ran our reload function, which set up our current cores. So current cores by default is going to be 0, 0. So if we do just an if statement here, if self.current cores is equal to 0, 0, I guess we should say if it's, yeah, if it's equal to 0, 0, this is when we want to do some spawn, generate a new spawn location. If it's not equal to 0, 0, then we're just going to not run this logic because that means we already have our current spawn location and we will just spawn into there. This is an issue because if we do spawn in by default at 0, 0, you know, if we randomly get the coordinates 0, 0, which are valid coordinates you could spawn in, it will give us a new random location. So we should probably change our current cores here to an empty array or to none, right? An empty array or to none. So I'm going to just change it here real quick to none. Can I still type it as a list and have it as none? No. So let's just do it as an empty list. All right, we can just do it as an empty list. So if it's equal to an empty list, then get some new chords. If not, ignore that. All right, so now we should have fixed that bug. So now if we look at our server here, close it, restart our server, cd into our game, Python server. Now when we have Bob connect, he spawns down there. Let's have Alice connect. She spawns up there. They're both in. This is more so what we wanted because we do have this sleep 10 in here, which I was kind of confused about. I was going to tackle that next. So they should be technically on here for 10 seconds before they disappear, right? For 10 seconds before they disappear. So let's see. I think it's been 10 seconds enough. So let's have Dog log in. So we got Bob, Alice, and Dog. And look at that. They disappeared. So they were on there for 10 seconds. All right. They disappeared when Dog logged in. And now let's see if we can re-log in as Bob. And we did. Bob showed up right here in the middle of the bottom row. And look at that. That's where he was last time. And if we keep re-logging in as Bob, you'll see we keep logging in at the exact same spawn location. Let's try Alice. Alice. And look at that. If we keep logging in as Alice, we keep showing up in the exact same spawn location. You can see Alice just disappeared because our thread disappeared. All right, after 10 seconds, the thread gets closed and they disappear from the map. So this, hopefully you guys are really starting to see right now, everything kind of come together. The threads are working, the potential issues you can run into threads, the race conditions, all right, that you need to evolve, but also thread management. Additionally, the power here of our server, you know, we're not doing anything too much more complex than we've already taught. The only like new third dimension to all this is our threads. Our threads really up our game to a completely new level because now we have things running in parallel to each other, which allows for so much new functionality, like our server that we got here. So the very last thing that we have is every time the server closes, we're losing all of the profiles of everyone that has logged in. We don't want to do that. We want to save it. So that way, when the server gets reloaded, we don't have any lost information. All right, people can pick up from exactly where they left off. Now, I don't know if we're going to do our deadlock example right now, but we'll definitely show saving. All right, we'll definitely show saving. So if we go over to our server file, we want to pickle. All right, the easiest way is to pickle our program management here and save it to a file. Right, easiest thing we can do. So let's go about doing that. Every time a new connection gets made, a player spawns and a new connection gets made, they're going to be pickled and saved to the map. That may not be the most appropriate, mostly because again we're going to run into that race condition again, specifically where we won't have their username. All right, if we were to save them to a file, you know, save to file right here, we'll run into that race condition again. So it might be better if we do it, we save every time that refresh happens, because we don't really care about pending, right? We don't really care about pending people per se. We only care about the real live players that have made accounts fully verified and up and playing, all right? So let's go ahead and do this in our refresh section, where we know people will move from that pending to the live, and then we can save right here. All right, we can save the project manager here to a file. So let's go ahead and show that off. We know we can use pickle, so are we importing pickle right now? Let's go ahead and do that. Import pickle. All right, so inside of pickle, let me make sure I'm on the right spot. Let's go ahead and do pickle dot, and we have dumps, which is going to be for the dumping out and returning bytes, which we don't want to do. We just want to save to a file, so we can just use dump, since that will save to a file. Now, for file here, I can't remember if we have to give it a file pointer, aka a file we've already opened, or if we just pass it a file name and it will automatically open that file up for us. So let's go ahead and go to Bing here and ask, does our, let's say just Python give me an example of pickle.dump. All right, so let's just have it give us an example, and we can just look at that example. So we do need to open up a file and pass the file pointer over. So luckily it wrote that code for us, so we can just go ahead and grab it and paste it right here. Again, with is a special term that effectively when you're opening a file or opening any various connection, with means that during inside of this nested area, the file will be open and exist, and when you leave it, when the logic leaves it, so when we get here, it will automatically, or should I say auto-magically, close the connection to the file. Or if this was a actual connection like how we are, you know, connecting the clients, it would do the exact same thing. So with is great for that, so we don't need to worry about closing. It says data.pickle. Let's just change this to save.pickle, and we're going to write binary data because that's what pickle does, and we're going to save ourselves. All right, the entire current state of player management. All right, so that is just going to be self. So we need this to be comma F. Did I not have that, or did I delete it? No, I didn't copy this part. So this is the file that we want to save it to. So this should work, potentially. Let's see. Let's rerun our server. Let's make sure the server is closed. Let's go and close our server. That means we've lost all of our data. We're going to be, if this works, we're saving it, but we're not still loading up our save file state. So we're going to need to make an adjustment to load up data here too. So let's go ahead and do Python and our server. So our server is running. Let's go ahead and have our client connect. So let's have Bob connect. And when Bob connects, look at that. Our save.pickle file has now showed up. We're hanging, which means a potential issue has occurred. So let's see here. Pickle socket object. This is what I thought we might run into. So pickle is great. Very convenient and works absolutely beautiful. But it has some limitations, right? Mostly when we're dealing with things like network connections or open files or threaded items, IDs to thread items, they don't really save well. They don't really convert to a save site well. So we have to effectively just make a function that we can invoke that will give us all the data that's important, or extract away the data that's not important in order for us to save everything well and correctly to a file. We could also spend a second maybe looking up on Bing Chat to see if they have a potential quicker workaround for us. So let's go ahead and copy our type error here and go over to Bing Chat, and let's see solution for, and let's see if it has a potential faster solution where Pickle can kind of ignore or sort out any socket objects or thread object. It said socket object because that's what it ran into first, but most likely we're going to get into. I've never seen this before. It searched for all these items, but it didn't even show up. It didn't even give us a solution. Let's try this again. That is weird. All right, that was very, very weird. I don't know why I didn't do that. All right, yep. So, however, not all Python objects can be pickled, and socket objects, my God, are one of them. General solution is to convert the socket object to basic types that can be shared and rebuilt by the original object on the other side, or rewrite so that you won't need this particular object. All right, so like I said, we can do a function so it saves the core components, and that way we can ignore the socket object. Now, this may lead us down some rabbit holes. We're kind of pressing up on time here, so we might continue this tomorrow. Mostly, I can't remember off the top of my head if there's a special function that we can do for pickling that it would ignore. We can have it ignore certain items, kind of like we can do underscore like string when we're printing and have our class do a custom printed string. I'm not quite sure off the top of my head if there's a way to do an underscore like pickle, so that way pickle only looks at the items we have in there. But again, we can also just make a custom function that we use for saving, because all we need to save at the end of the day is some information about the players. We don't need everything in the player. We just need the key things right now, which is going to be the ID, the username, the pending state, and the current coordinates. All right. So these ones, if we can just remove, which I think we could just, what we could do is maybe make in here a sanitize function. So def san, what? Look, This is some magic. This is some hey, what? I don't. Okay, whatever. So we can sanitize, aka remove the connection to the thread, so this will pickle correctly. And instead, in our player manager, instead of trying to pickle itself, we can make a copy of itself. All right, is there? We can make a copy of itself and then sanitize the arrays, and then we could just. Next ID will be a potential issue that we need to resolve later on, specifically on loading. We don't need to worry about that right now. I think the quick dirty way for copying an object, is it just going to be no, I think we have to copy the arrays. What is the function for copying an object? Python copy object. Because I know there's a way to copy in any type of given object. Okay, it's in the copy module. However, the copy module does not copy types like method, stack, trace streams. Does not copy function. Does not copy functions and classes. By returning the original object unchanged. Alright, the deep. Shallow copy and deep copy. Shallow copy creates a new object but does not create new copies of nested objects. Okay, so we want a deep copy. So let's go ahead and import copy. And let's go ahead and do copy dot deep copy. And we're going to want to do this on self. And this is going to be our copied PM equals this, and then we need to sanitize everything. So for here we go, for self, not players, so it's for item in copied PM dot players, because the players are the important part. So we can straight up just in our copied PM here, copy PM'd dot pending players. We can make that empty, so we don't need to worry about that at all. For our actual players, though, we need to sanitize them. So let's go ahead. It wants to do basically the same thing. We don't need to run all this. We can just do player. We can just do item dot sanitize. All right, so this should sanitize. We're removing all the pending players from this copied one because we don't need them. We're going to sanitize all of the current players we have, and then we should be able to save them all. So let's go ahead and run this. All right, so the server is running. Let's go ahead and do our CD into our game server, Python our client, and say Bob. And we are running into another error, it looks like. Cannot pickle socket object. Oh, that's my bad. We're not we weren't saving the copied PM. Alright, so let's go ahead and restart here. Run our game server. After running our game server, let's go ahead and go here, Python client Bob, and what is it this time? Sanitize, copied. I did save this, right? Deep copy. Oh, is this self deep copy? The deep copy is running into an issue. Oh, okay. What we can do is instead just make a new array for sanitized. Self dot players sanitized. All right. So we'll just make another workaround. We'll just make a new array for sanitized players. This will only be messed with here when we're trying to write them. So in here, we're going to go ahead and make self.sanitize players equal our self.players.copy. So a copy of that list, and then we're just going to go ahead and have it so we sanitize every player in here. So player equals, we have player that's in this for loop here. All right, so we should be fine. Player sanitize, and then we can just pickle the sanitized version. Okay, this one should work. I guess I said that about the last one, but this one should work. Server started running good cd game python, and our player client Bob hanging string object no attribute sanitize string object player sanitize player self.players players. This is a dictionary. Dictionary has 2 items. Gosh darn it. ID and player. Always the simple things, right? Always the simple things. All right, this should be the final one. I swear on this one. All right. And we cd into game server, and we do Python client, enter Bob. Okay, now this is getting ridiculous. Too many values to unpack. Okay, whatever. We're getting too late on time right now, so we'll continue this tomorrow. So those of you that are watching, resolve this issue. All right, resolve this issue, and your stretch goal is make the loading work. Right, make the loading work. Get the loading up and running and working. So you finish this whole ordeal. I will finish this also and send it to people in the Discord. So go ahead and join the Discord. If you're a supporter. So if you are a supporter and you have access to the supporter chat, so those are going to be Patreon, Discord Premium, and volunteers, aka our champions, you will have access to the supporters chat. I will dump this in and we'll talk about it tomorrow. So try to get that challenge done. Post your code in the 100 Days Rootkit Challenge so I can see. All right, and I'll let you know how you did. All right, are there any questions before we call it good for today? All right, any questions before we call it good for today? All right, I don't see any questions. So as always, if you do have questions, go and post them in the 100 Days of Rootkit chat, and we'll answer them in there later. All right, sweet. Thanks you guys for joining, and I'll see you guys tomorrow on the next one.